Sam, let's go to the group of 5.
My favorite. This is my time, baby.
I think this is kind of unfair because we're breaking it down. There's 30 some. What am I thinking? There's 60 something teams, 68 teams. I forget the number. If you break it down, but there's over 60 teams. So I look at these QBs. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of guys that can play. But I think in part because we have so many teams. But so sorting these into tiers was difficult. My tier 1, I'm going to go despite the breakup. And I've referred to it as a Brady Belichick situation that I'm very intrigued by, with Grayson McCall trying to soldier on with Tim Beck as Jamie Chadwell moves on to Liberty. If we can call it a lifetime achievement award if we want. Grayson McCall has tortured more linebackers than any quarterback in the country. Good luck to all of the folks on Liberty's schedule this year. Frank Harris at UTSA, our lucky lefty. Michael Pratt, one of the toughest quarterbacks, a guy that has a ton of experience, and then another guy who moved up from the lower level, Austin Reed at Western Kentucky. Again, he's a guy I think threw for 5,000 yards, in like 2 games last year. My tier 2, Curtis Rourke at Ohio, DeQuan Finn at Toledo. DeQuan Finn, he might be the most fun guy on this list. I'm very excited to see what he can do. I think he's got a ton of upside to join that tier 1 guy, and maybe sniff some Heisman stuff. We'll see. Taylon Green at Boise State is my tier 2. Siobhan Cordero at San Jose State. He's got a game. He gets to go up against USC's feared secondary this week. He might put up some numbers. We'll see if he can put a scare into them. Brent Brennan, really good coach out there. And then, Sam, you put some other guys to consider. We'll call these our tier 3 guys. Your Casey Thompson at Florida Atlantic, a guy that has been at a bunch of places, Texas, Nebraska, now reunites with Tom Herman at Florida Atlantic. Carter Bradley, not America's finest quarterback. He's at South Alabama. And then Hank Bachmeier at Louisiana Tech. And Preston Stone, extremely SMU name and an extremely SMU quarterback. What do you make of this crop of G5? When you look at this list, Sam, what do you make of this year's group of 5 quarterbacks?
It's a lot of fun. This is going to be a fun year to follow all these teams because there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of new talent, guys that are emerging that the general fan may be not aware of. And then there's also a lot of remember that guys running around here like Casey Thompson, at FAU, who once upon a time led the Big 12 in touchdown passes in 2021. You got JT Daniels, who's not on this list, who I beefed with you last night, the JT Daniels erasure on this list. JT Daniels is on his 4th school. He is at Rice. And I think he will actually have a good season there.
What is a good season though, Sam? What is a good season for JT Daniels? Are you still on board?
Yeah, I am, because I think the system fit is going to be good. That's the thing, is I think JT has had a lot of circumstances from injuries to system fits and to just, he obviously got supplanted by Stetson Bennett, just the way that whole thing played out in Georgia. As they rode the hot hand, last year obviously didn't go well at West Virginia, certainly. But at the end of the season, they made a little bit of a change offensively in what they were doing. I think he's now finally, in a place that he fits, where the offense fits, the scheme fits, and I think he'll be comfortable. And there's potential there for him to, throw for 3,000 yards and, 30 touchdowns. I think that's doable in the American for JT Daniels. But you look at the top tier of this list: Grayson McCall, Frank Harris, Michael Pratt, Austin Reed. That is
murderer's row.
Studly list. Like Grayson McCall, we know what he's done. Frank Harris, who's 45 years old, my personal favorite quarterback on this list.
Yes.
Who's won 1 million games at UTSA, and he gets to move into a new conference and really test his mettle against a higher level of competition than he had in Conference USA. That'll be a ton of fun to see. Pratt, of course, leading Tulane to the New Year's Six and the win over USC last year. And Austin Reed, who tested the portal for a little bit and ended up coming back. He's got a new offensive coordinator too. Drew Hollingshead is over there at Western Kentucky to kind of keep that air raid style offense going. So he'll probably throw for 5,000 yards this year. This is a really good group of guys, and I'm excited to see some of these guys emerge.
Yeah. By the way, Frank Harris wears number 0, if you weren't aware. So if you've never seen a quarterback wear number 0, at the very least, he's going to provide you that. So listen, Don't say that we've never done anything for you. Listen, this is a public service podcast, and UTSA, despite losing Zachary Franklin, Frank Harris can play some ball.
Still got JT Clark, baby.
Yes. 59 total touchdowns last year for DeQuan Finn. When you look at that tier 2 list, who do you like the most to ascend and be a guy that maybe even casual college football fans are like, oh, he's playing. I'm turning it on.
Yeah, the one I'm most intrigued by is Taylon Green in Boise State. Big guy, can throw it, is mobile, can run it. Really, really just seems like he's got a lot of tools. And I think when you look at where he was last year and you take another step forward in that development, I think he's got some real potential there. Finn is super exciting. Cordero is super exciting. But Green is the one who I think he doesn't have the numbers that those other guys do, that you could see him rising up and moving up this group.
Yeah, Boise has been an interesting spot because last year, I watched him get absolutely manhandled by Oregon State, and I'm like, what's going on here? Are we seeing the slow death spiral of Boise State under Eddie Avalos, and we're gonna have to make a change here? But they rallied on the back half of last season in part because of the way that Green played, and I'm very curious to see what that looks like. In another year of Boise football, I think we'll see kind of where that breaks down. You also threw out Jalen Maiden at San Diego State. I'm very intrigued to see, now that they're, Pac-12 hopes are whatever we want to call it. I don't know where we're at here. But I'm intrigued by him. He's had a weird career as well. I remember him Mississippi State. I remember him leaving. I think he left at some point early on in the Leach turnover or something along those lines. I forget exactly when that was, but
and then he moved to safety midway through last year or early last year, actually before the season. He was playing safety for them, like their Aztec position. And then they had some issues, injuries and all that. And then in the middle of the season, they put him at quarterback and he throws for 2,000 yards in the second half of the season. It was amazing. Jalen Maiden, let's go.
We didn't really get into Preston Stone at SMU under Rhett Lashley. I think SMU has had this weird run of really good quarterback play of guys that they get these guys and then they end up losing these guys. And then, did it start with Garrett Gilbert? Is that really when they kind of,
oh, wow. You're going to take it way back. It's like June Jones era.
Was that June or was that Chad? I forget.
It was June, I think. It was June, and maybe Chad was in the back end of Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah, maybe. Either way,
but June was there when he first transferred.
They've had pretty good quarterback play. And it's amazing you can lose a guy like Tanner Mordecai, and obviously you still have Preston Stone there.
Yeah, they had Garrett Gilbert, Ben Hicks, Shane Buechele, Tanner Mordecai, and now Preston Stone. It's been a pretty good run.
Listen, SMU has become what I wonder why North Texas isn't, in that they're sort of, elite Texas talent bounce back in that, hey, if you go to Texas or you go to Oklahoma or you go to any number of these big places and it doesn't quite work out for you, you can come back. And SMU has their track record with those guys over the last, 6, 7, 8 years, over the course of 3 coaching staffs, has been really, really good. And so I'm very intrigued, to see what that looks like. I think I'm sort of, am I getting ahead of myself, Sam, by saying that I kind of feel bad for SMU and that they're a lot in life until they become an ACC member, of course, Sam, that if Preston has a huge year one, he's going to get some calls, and that's just what it is. That's what college football is. And I think that in some ways it's a testament to a lot of these guys. You mentioned Austin Reed flirting with the portal, that these guys have had already great careers. Cordero, I believe, came over from Hawaii, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of these guys are homegrown guys, and they're still here. And so I get the complaints from Group of 5 coaches, and they're not unfair, that they feel like a farm system in a lot of ways. But props to these guys that they've had really good careers and are still there.
Yeah, it's. They might, if Preston Stone were to get that call, if he broke out this year, because this is his first year as the guy with Tanner Mordecai gone. But if he does get that call, SMU is one of the programs that is better equipped to fend those overtures off, because they are way ahead of the game in NIL than other programs in the group of five. So
Yes.
SMU is in a really unique situation because if they go to a Power Five conference, obviously that helps your brand exposure and the relevance of your program. But if they don't, in the era of the 12-team playoff, they are really well positioned to be a team that consistently contends for that spot, that automatic berth that the group of five teams will end up getting, or whatever the mid-major teams, I guess is what we'll call them moving forward. They have a really good chance to get that automatic bid because they're going to be the talent that they've stockpiled on that roster is really good. And then they're also recruiting high school at a really good level. I mean, Preston Stone is the highest ranked recruit in the internet rankings era that they've ever signed.
Yep.
And then before him, they had signed Jordan Hudson, who ended up going to TCU. And then, oh, by the way, bounced back and transferred to SMU after 1 year at TCU. So they're recruiting the high schools at a really good level, and they're hammering the portal. So even though you may lose some guys, they've been really good about getting bounce back guys. They got LJ Johnson from Texas A&M, PJ Williams. They got several guys from Miami where Rhett Lashley was an assistant before. They have really nailed the portal and getting, like you said, those bounce back guys, even if they aren't bounce back, even if they're from other programs and don't have any ties, they've done a really good job of scouting it and building it. And so the keys are there for Stone. Like they've got a ton of receivers. You want to talk about receiver talent in the group of five on the SMU has got as much or more than anybody. So he's got plenty of tools to work with. They got a loaded backfield with LJ Johnson, Kamar Wheaton. So it's all up to Preston Stone at this point. It's all up to him to meet that level and take the reins and be the guy where it was different when Tanner Mordecai was there and was the starter. And you could just, okay, yeah, I'm here, I'm competing. I want to be the starter, but if I'm not, hey, I'm here, I'm ready. Now you're the guy. There's no safety net anymore. It's your show.
SMU is in a really interesting place just because I think like UNT, like Denton is not Dallas. Denton is in an odd place, and you are up there north a little bit, but you're still in the Metroplex. SMU, like you are Dallas. You're in the middle of Highland Park. You're a half a block away from Bob Bowlesby's house, if he hadn't moved yet. You got pretty nice facilities. Like SMU, they have a small fan base, but they have a lot of money and they have people that care about them, and and are willing to back them. And this is the reason why they're flirting with the idea of, hey, ACC, if you take us, we'll not take any TV money for 5 years because they have that kind of cash. And you have that. It is, and you have access to talent, and that's just what it is. And I think, they're. It's not hard for me to see why when they go in the portal, if you have money and you say, hey, come live in the middle of a giant city instead of going to a small college. That's a pretty nice selling point. And so it's not hard for me to see why they have done so well in the portal. And Rhett Lashley, obviously an up-and-coming quarterback as well. A fellow Springdale, Arkansas native there also, Sam. So there's a lot of us out there. Shout out to the Bulldogs. Although Rhett was a Shiloh guy, so it is what it is.